Hello, this is Ignacy Trzewiczek, Portal Games. This is Portal Games vlog, and today's episode is super interesting, hopefully for you, because today I'm talking how I was designing Dune House Secrets. So I hope this is interesting for all of you who are interested in playing this game, for all of you who already played the game, and for all of you who want to become game designer, who are young game designers and want to hear some tips and tricks how to design games. So let me start. And today's episode is super fancy, so we are going to use a green screen. So beware, I'm going to the green screen. Dune House Secrets is inspired by award-winning game called Detective. We released this game in 2018. It had a huge, amazing feedback. It was a blast. It was nominated for Kenner Spiel des Jahres. It was nominated for Golden Geek, Dance Tower Award. Ton of different awards won, or at least was nominated. Sold in more than 100,000 copies. Detective was a massive hit. It was a game about you being detective, obviously, in Richmond, in United America, doing 5 cases of 5 different murders to solve, and it was all as a one big campaign. And based on this engine, based on these mechanisms, we decided to do Dune House Secrets, a story-driven game that takes place on Arrakis. And that, on one hand, looks like a super simple task. You have an existing, well-received, loved by the fans, story-driven game about detectives. So let's do the same. A story-driven game about rebels on Arrakis. Obviously, it is not that simple. So in that video, I will tell you how we were changing the things. And the first thing that we changed was obviously the characters. In the base game of Detective, as I mentioned, you are playing detectives. You are the police officers, and here you are the resistance. You are fighting against the evil Carconen, so the whole point of view, the whole narration changes a lot. And with that in mind, we started changing the basic rules of Detective to show you that you are now on Arrakis. Can I have the first slide, please? The first thing that we changed was the board, and the base game of Detective, once again, you are police officers, and what we wanted to to show in this game was that you have your procedures, like in all these TV shows. They are called procedurals. TV shows, you go to the lab to check the DNA samples and fingerprints. You go to the court to get to the old archives. You go to the precinct to interview someone. Like there is this procedure how you, as a police officer, are solving the case. And we wanted it very strongly to show you that you are part of the law, you're part of the system. And that's why on the board, and we can see here on the board for Detective, there were just few locations. Lab, court, precinct, etc. You know the area, you know the rules, you know what to do. On Arrakis, you don't know anything. In this game, player characters are visiting the city of Tel Gezer, and they are visiting the city for the first time. There is no procedures, there is nothing they know. They just visit the brand new city they were never before in, and they have to learn about this city. So we changed the whole board system, and in this game, players receive the big, amazing handout, the map of Tel Gezer, with different locations marked, like the pub, like the ornithopter's airport, like the palace of the governor, like the barracks of the soldiers. All these important locations are beautifully illustrated on the map, but players have no clue about the details of these locations. And we made this handout, we made this board especially on purpose on a very simple paper, so players can write on this map, like in a role-playing game session, like on a handout, when they finally visit the pub, when they finally visit the ornithopter pod, they can write some numbers, what card was leading to that, who they met, what's the name of the bartender, who he knows, how to get to the part of the governor. Like they can make notes on this handout, and over the course of couple of games they will put more and more details discovering the city, like in classical Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder game session. So that was a huge change from the board that you know everything. This is a court, this is a laboratorium, this is our precinct. You go to the city, we do nothing, and you are just filling in the story and discovering this amazing world of Tel Gezer. So that was one big change in approach to the gameplay. Can I have a next slide, please? And then in the base game of Detective, you play a role as officers, and each of you has a special skill. Each of you has one of them is very good in looking through the archives. One of them is very good at the crime scene to see all the details. One of them can work very smooth with the computers, and he has this hack icon, and at the very beginning of each game of detective, all of them have these tokens. They put them into the pool, and they can spend over the course of the game, they can spend these tokens to get additional information, additional bonuses. When I was and my team was working on Dune, when we were thinking what's the spirit of the game, what's the message of the book, what's the crucial for the book, and in terms for the Fremen, the efficiency, the care for the resource, the care for the water, how important the water is, the care for the spice, how important and valuable the spice is. And when we were thinking about the Fremens, you can see it in the movie as well, they care for the stuff. They don't use the resources without thinking about that. They care for every bit of the water. They care for every bit of the spice. And we wanted to put it into the game. So the twist here, the changes detective into the Dune is that these tokens that you see here, the spice, the water, they are one use only. You start the game with a couple of resources, you start the game with a couple of tokens, and if you spend them, they are spent. There is no replenish of the tokens. When you play detective at the beginning of every single game of detective, you get all these tokens back to the pool. So this is often the case when you are playing detective and is end of the session, you have only a couple of cards left, and players are okay, spend these tokens, we will not use them anymore. So you are spending everything. Here, playing on Dune, playing on Arrakis, you think about every single token, because if you spend it even at the end of the one game session, you will not have this token at the beginning of the next session. And of course, players have some tools to receive the more tokens. They have some cards that will provide them more tokens. But generally speaking, if the token is spent, it is spent. And it changes the narration, it changes the dynamic at the table, it adds so much more table talk and discussion. Should we spend this token now? Because if we do it, we will not have it. So this is our development team. This is me, once again, trying to get the spirit of the book, getting the spirit of the Fremen culture, and put in terms of the mechanism, the very simple mechanism. You start with the resources, and this is all you have. Care for it, because this is all you have. Can I have a next slide, please? And the next slide is tension. When you play detective, when you play the base game of detective, you are the law enforcers, you are the police officers. You can get someone for questioning, you can visit the crime scene, you are the law, and you can everything almost. Here on Dune, your players are playing characters that are resistance members. They are playing against the law, they are playing against the evil Harkonnen. If they make a mistake, they will end up in a prison, or even worse. So this is completely opposite angle, this is completely different approach to the gameplay, how we wrote the cards, how we designed the whole plot. And this is also how I was thinking how to sell this idea, how to sell to players, to show them the fact that you have to be in stealth, you have to be very, very hiding, you have to be not sure what's going on, and be afraid that you may be exposed. And I was thinking what game mechanism works well with something like that, and we decided with the team for the push your luck mechanism. These tokens you are seeing here on the screen, these are threat tokens, and at the very beginning of the game there's a pool of these tokens, and they're all face down. And there will be some situations in the game when you have to sneak around the guards from the Harkonnen, when you have to break into the locations I cannot spoil. So you are risking, and if you are risking, you will have to draw one of these tokens. Some of them are just fine, nothing happened, you manage to sneak, and sometimes something very, very bad happens, and you draw the bad token, and the whole threat track moves towards the very bad things that may happen. So once again, here with this game, instead of being like detective police officers who are not afraid of anything, you are now the resistance, and you have to be very, very careful. And every couple of minutes, maybe not a couple of minutes, but a couple of times during the game session, you have to take the risk. And you have this amazing moment at the table when players are discussing, are you risking? Are we risking? Yes, let's risk. It's very important. We need to get there. Let's risk. And they are taking this token and pushing their luck and seeing what will happen. So that was once again how we changed the angle, the storytelling in the game by putting this very, very small rule, very simple rule that changes the whole narration in the game. Can I have a next slide, please? And then we have this component that you know from the base game of Detective and from Detective Season 1 and other expansions for the game, the portraits of the suspects. Here we have the portraits from the base game of detective. So the game comes with the photos that you can put on your board, on your whiteboard or your corkboard in the house and make all this connection. He said that, he's our suspect, this is our secondary suspect, this is a guy who saw what happened, we need to interrogate him. And when you play detective, there's more and more non-player characters on the wall, and you make all these notes and connections, and you try to figure out what was happening, who knows the solution, and it's a brilliant experience. But here on Dune, on Arrakis, the story is completely different. You are not detectives, you are not solving the crime, you are having some sabotage missions, you are doing some very, very different stuff in terms of the narration, in terms of the plot. So there was no need to put the characters in the game. And what differs between Richmond, America and Arrakis, everyone more or less knows how the Richmond looks like. Not all of you know how Arrakis looks like. So we decided that we will use this component, this square card, to show you the vision of the game, to show you how the locations look like, how the items look like. And our artwork team made amazing work, of course, that matches the vision of the original movie. So in this game, sometimes you are reading the card and then you have the access to this amazing square illustration to help you visualize where you are, how these things looks, and how they differ from Richmond, New York, Los Angeles, and our world. So this is how we were once again changing the component to help you be immersed on Arrakis. Can I have a next slide, please? And the next slide is about Antares, the detective modern crime board game. It was renowned, got all these hours, this amazing feedback from you guys, because many things. One of them was the Antares website, the website that allows you to check the fingerprints, to check the DNA samples, to compare them, to type in some data that you found at the crime scene, and then search the website if there is a suspect with that DNA in the prison somewhere. So you are feeling like FBI agent, you are feeling like actual police officers using this database of all the suspects and all the people arrested. Sorry. On Dune, there is no computers, there is no FBI servers, there is nothing like that. And when we were working with Legendary, they asked us how we want to approach this Antares website, because we are not happy with computers on Dune. And we use this in a best way possible. We used it to improve the storytelling, to help you be immersed in the world. So we were, we knew that not all of you read the book. We knew that not all of you will see the movie, but there are some parts of the world that are very crucial for you to understand, so you understand the plot of the game. So that's why we decided for something like is known from the video games, like a cutscene, so like from the old PlayStation times. And in this game, you will find several videos that you can watch during the gameplay that explains you the tradition, the lore, the history, the culture of the world of Dune. So it is easier for you to understand the motivations between different characters, between the houses, the history of the houses, the whole politics that is happening in this very dense, insane plot in the game. So when you're playing the game, sometimes you're asked to log into the Antares website, and there you will see about 2 to 3 minutes animated video teaching you about Etrides, teaching you about the Harkonnens, teaching you about the Gedi Prime, teaching you about the Caladan, etc., etc. So you get smooth entrance to the world. If you know the book by heart, if you read the book many times, you most likely can ignore all these videos. But if you are new to the world, it will help you understand what's going on in this game. Can I have a next slide, please? And one more thing that is different between Detective and Dune is obviously the final report. The final report in the game of Detective, you are police officers, you are detective, you need to find the murderer. There is a case, there is a dead body, you need to find out who was the murderer and what was the motive of the crime. So this is how Detective ends, with the final report. When do you have some questions, who was the murderer, what was the motive. Here in Dune, as I said, the plot is completely different. This is absolutely not about the murder scene, this is completely different story. So we decided to be inspired by role-playing games genre, by Dungeons & Dragons, by Pathfinder, by Call of Cthulhu, and all other amazing role-playing games. And here at the end of the game session, at the end of the mission, you are not asked questions. You just had an amazing experience, you discovered something, you discovered the story, you discovered what was happening, and then we, like a game master, we give you some tip. You enjoy the experience, what is most interesting for you, and you can pick one of the options and learn a little bit more about something. So if you're playing the game, you learn about this part of the plot, you learn about this part of plot, but this part, you wish you knew a little bit more. At the end of the game, you have this final report when we, as a game master, tells you, we can tell you more. And just pick which one of the plot lines is most interesting for you, and we'll tell you a little bit more about this thing. The final question, the final decision for you will be, of course, at the end of the campaign. At the end of the campaign, players are faced with a very important question, and that will prove how they understood the whole plot, how they understood the whole story, and then there will be the final question that you just say this or this, and things will happen. But through the story, we are just playing like a role-playing game campaign. You are experiencing the amazing plot and learning more and more about different things. So these are these things how we changed existing award-winning game Detective into a brand new beast, taking some of the elements from Detective and tweaking them, changing them, thinking all the time for all these months of developing how it would look on Dune, how we can sell this Dune feeling, how we can show you that you are now on Arrakis, not on Richmond. And I'm very proud of what we achieved here, what me and my development team did. And when we were playtesting for all these months, I saw players that were totally immersed in this brand new world, and they learned so much about Arrakis through the videos, through all these stories. So this is how you design a game of Dune. Think about the lore, think about the book, learn the book, and then tweak and change it to the Dune house secrets. That was my video, that was my vlog for today. Thank you for watching. And as always, we are recording 100 vlogs for 100 days, trying to entertain you, trying to provide you some value, trying to educate you about some things. If you enjoyed that video, if you enjoyed this short lesson about designing Dune, give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you want to hang out longer with us. And as always, I invite you for tomorrow, because tomorrow we'll have another video on this very channel. So stay tuned. And if you like this video, maybe you can share it with your friends. Thank you. Bye-bye.